Happy Christmas to all. We've got it in red. We've got the closest star in green. We've got it in combined wavelengths. And coronal mass ejections showing up. That and lots more. We'll tell you all about it. And welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. This is a test of the emergency hairdo system. If this had been a real hairdo emergency, it would have been included with emergency bulletins about all sorts of things, like what hair care products to use and not use. I won't worry about it. It's the daily space weather. So yeah, we've got a coronal mass ejection. We'll tell you about where it's headed. First, the colorized magnetogram, and lots more. Let's zoom in on these fields of the past day and a half. It's been another interesting day with a lively sun. Activity has dropped a little bit. Here it is in golden, delicious gold. The golden, delicious golden view of 171 angstroms. A portion of the ultraviolet light spectrum. So lots of activity, some massive sunspots, especially 2916 radio fluxes at 126 solar flux units. We're going to try to speed this thing up and shorten the video a little bit. Also a cosmology segment coming out afterwards. There's the 1-year chart of the radio flux. It's the black line. 126 solar flux units is where we're at. Where we are is better English. And a quick check of earthquakes. The largest of the past 24, I think, was a 5.7 here. Near Laos, in Laos. On the southeastern mainland there of Asia. Deep quake at Fiji at nearly 600 kilometers. And another one at 445 kilometers. Some quakes in Hawaii, and it looks like off the coast of Petrolia, California again, as some seismic activity hotspot happening there. South Sandwich Island seeing some quakes. Some quakes in between New Zealand and Fiji. Samoa, earthquakes in that region. South Indian Ocean seeing a 5.4, another deep quake at Fiji, that one estimated to be 629 kilometers depth. A couple coming in as we did the show. Like this Puerto Rico quake, shout out to Peter Schiff if you're watching. Yeah, solar activity affects the economy, folks. I don't know if you're aware or not. Vanuatu also seeing a 5.0 deep quake coming in there at 217 kilometers while we recorded. As far as volcanoes, what's ringing when it comes to those? Shivaluch is producing a 15,000-foot ash plume from Kamchatka. 4,000-foot ash plume from Subanosejima. 14,000-foot ash plume from Semeru. That's located on East Java. Dukono exploding. 8,000-foot volcanic ash plume from Dukono. What do we got here? Seismic activity under Loihi. Loihai? Loihai, I don't know. Loihai? So that is the Volcano Observatory reported light shaking with maximum intensity of 4 has been reported across parts of the island of Hawaii. At that intensity, significant damage to buildings or structures not expected. 4.9 happened there. So a significant earthquake there at Loihi, and Hunga Tonga Hunga Apai on the Isle of Tonga. Continues to erupt here, a little bit less of an ash plume there. It's now at 10,000 foot. I think it was 40,000 feet on yesterday's report. So a little bit of a relaxation there of Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai. Fuego in Guatemala producing a 16,000 foot ash plume. Nevado del Ruiz has stopped erupting apparently, or it's not visible in the satellite. Sangay exploding. Flight level 200 over Ecuador from Sangay. Revenador, flight level 150 over Revenador. Don't fly your John Denver-style ultralight aircraft over Revenador. It could be unhelpful, and we need the views on YouTube. Saab and Kaya unable to detect. Sporadic incandescences from Nevados de Chilean. Apparently no major eruption there. Major eruption of posts at smAshteAm.com/smAshteAm. Go check it out if you haven't. We've made most of the posts free. And when we talk about the Galactic Forces, the Galactic Federation Special Forces, rather, we would prefer for you to be free. So Universum Liberate, folks. You can find links to the merch below the video. Wish somebody a happy Christmas by sending them a receipt that you sent them a Universum Liberate product, perhaps. Talk about last-minute shopping. Send them a receipt that it's on the way. You can find links on the homepage to all of this. smAshteAm.com. smAshteAm.org will redirect you here. You can click on the smAshteAm, and we've got some of our solar videos there on the homepage as well. GOES magnetometers here have just started to converge a little bit. There was a big divergence here happening around midnight local time for the GOES 17. So for you new viewers out there, these mean midnight local time for the satellite, meaning they're at the opposite side of the planet from the sun, and noon would be the same side of the planet as the sun. They're in near equatorial orbits, if that helps. Earth has recently moved into a North Pole current sheet shown here in green, where we expect to stay for the near future, barring some evaporation of a massive sunspot 2916 or activity in the northern hemisphere. Here is the line of sight view, and you can see all of that magnetic activity. Quite massive, looking like solar maximum conditions, at least solar cycle 24 solar maximum, we'll say. Next, the coronal hole plot showing the B field there in blue lines. The solar B field, the field that goes through the magnet, is in the process of reversing its fields. It does this every solar cycle, folks. And part of that process is these coronal holes here, as the north solar pole migrates to the southern portion of the sun, and vice versa with the south pole. You can see those transequatorial coronal holes happening now. That is the solar polar field reversal process occurring. And by the way, we've got multiple days here, so we can actually show you the coronal holes here from a few days ago. This is about 5 days ago. Here's 4 days ago. And up to the current. There's the 23rd, there's yesterday, Christmas Eve, and there is Christmas. So that's the coronal hole plot. It shows up very well in, obviously, the Gong 2 data. 193 angstroms is the best visual analysis, probably. 211 works well also. Let's take a look at sunspots. Quite a few significant ones here in the northern hemisphere. These are beta-class sunspot groups capable of producing large flares. Now this setting group over here, we could still see an M-class flare or possibly even an X-class flare from that group, but this is really still the group to watch here. 2916 has gained trailing umbrae now, so there's a much greater magnetic disparity happening on probably in those fields, I would have to say. Here's a close-up of that. Just quite a lot of umbral growth there, and some new sunspots rising once again. Here is the flare monitor. Likelihood of major flares is very high, more than 50%. We're more likely than not to see major flares. So here is the detected sunspot groups imagery and so on. The solar flare probability, it's quite high. So we've got this new group rising here. That'll be known as 2920, 2919, something like that. It's basically arbitrary, folks. It's just a counting of the sunspots. And remember, if an old sunspot rises, it gets a new name. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I believe they have to be having visible umbrae for 12 hours or more. Anyway, That's how they get a name. And then the way you calculate the sunspot number is something we're not even going to get into on the daily space weather. So we just did see a C-class flare happen here while we were recording, actually while we were doing show prep. Peak flux of that was at 12:30 universal time. No protons showing up, despite all that solar activity. So apparently Earth's magnetosphere still exists. Shout out to all those who thought it would be gone by now for some reason. Let's take a look at the real-time solar wind, and we did see the coronal mass ejection strike happen right here. So it was very minor. Talk about it's not even a glancing blow. It's a grazing, barely noticeable mosquito strike. And you can see this increase in the solar wind temperature, the speed and the density all happening at the same time. Also accompanied by a shift in the phi angle. So that all has to do with the incoming plasma, folks. And anyway, that's quite a dud with the coronal mass ejection strike. It showed up very late also. So it showed up late and slowly. And there may have been a signal that was hidden by a coronal hole wind stream. We won't worry about it. Here's the KP index. Global geomagnetism at a KP of 2 calm conditions. Here's the last 4 hours of Earth's geomagnetic moment from space. Yeah, you're riding a giant magnet, folks. A giant magnet. Anyway, there's the last 4 hours of the Geospace Model 2.0. And the scale there is nanopascals, magnetohydrodynamic pressure. We're going to show you a polar view since it's Christmas. Here's a polar view of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And this is in magnetic flux density nanotesla. Figure we'll add something that we don't normally view here. And then we'll show the normal view here, the global Earth's geomagnetic moment from the ground. Ground magnetic perturbations. Geospace delta B changes to Earth's B field from the ground level. And when you see a geomagnetic storm, this is more interesting because it tells you where aurorae are likely, as well as possible power induction situations that can cause power outages and so on. Here's a diagram of the solar system. Shazbot. And here's a 1-week forecast. And approaching a new moon. Shout out to all of you reverse werewolves who sleep well at night and are a good, productive member of society. Don't eat people. All right. And next, here is the your star chart. This is actually what's going on over the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And if you have an early horizon, if you have a low horizon early before dawn, you may see Mars rising ahead of the sun. If you see sunset, you may see Jupiter out there. And let's take a look at the coronal mass ejection. It's totally harmless. It's nowhere near the Earth. It may look like a halo. It isn't at all. The view from stereo A makes it super obvious. It's on nearly the opposite side of the sun. Lagrange point 1 is where the LASCO C3 is located, and you can see here on stereo A. There is a bit of additional ejecta here, sort of in the earthly vicinity, probably to Earth's southwest, but certainly off the north-south line. So there is an additional coronal mass ejection unfolding as we make the video, in other words. And we may have to make another video about that, but it's probably harmless. They're usually harmless, folks. Anyway, a bit of a Christmas light show happening there. Great view there from stereo A, and this happening right around midnight and on the opposite side of the sun. It's almost as if the sun is telling you that, hi, I'm not going to kill you. Today's cosmology segment's a separate video. to some incredible imagery. And that was a bit of a teaser. Make sure you check out our cosmology segment. It'll premiere after the daily space weather video on YouTube. Next, checking charging hazards. And are we seeing old data? Nope, it looks good. Some minor charging hazards here over the Central Pacific. Electron flux is still at high levels. We're expecting a dip here. I would agree that we're going to see levels not get into warning levels once again today. So expect less communication failures than you've seen the past couple days, probably. Here is the Noaa Forecast. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds aren't golden delicious gold. Those are just the observation. I would tend to agree that we're going to see a dip. Next, the total electron content forecast, which has been extremely chaotic, and it remains chaotic, but with a lower total electron content. So the red blobs have reduced in size, but we still see chaos in that we see high levels of electron flux around Antarctica, around the U.S., and I think I'm using too much Epic Pen for the day, so let's leave that off. Anyway, lots of GPS errors happening. This will show you where they happen, the total electron content forecast. The electrons between your GPS handset and your GPS satellite, which is located like 12,500 miles of altitude. Next, the ionosphere, located about 300 kilometers of altitude. Note 12,500 miles versus 300 kilometers. This is sort of the bridge between Earth and space. Your geosynchronous satellite is at thousands of miles higher than the F-ionosphere layer, which is located at 300 kilometers of altitude. Anyway, this is your ionogram showing vibrational frequency. The Drake Passage. The Drake Passage, everybody. It's a weird point on the planet where the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean try to reach static equilibrium. There's lots of water sloshing around there. Here's the anomalygram. There's a lot of water sloshing back and forth in the Drake Passage. How much? Which direction? Well, the ionosphere is not going to tell you that, really. But there's a weird place on the planet just north of there, known as the South Atlantic Anomaly, now located over the South American continent. It's the weakest spot in Earth's magnetosphere. There's also kind of a weak spot over here by South Africa, but not as weak as the South Atlantic Anomaly. So anyway, here's the latest image. That's anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. There's the ionogram. And you can see high-frequency anomalies happening down here. And let's do bonus features. Oh crap, I forgot to show a lot of things, and I'm not editing this video. There's the charging hazards. There's the electron flux. There's a 3-day chart. Forecast model. Diagram. Total electron content. We apologize for these technical difficulties, but they get these videos onto your screen more promptly. It's a perfect time to take a sip of your highly fortified coffee, cocoa / cayenne pepper. Ah. Perhaps join us by writing a Christmas carol. A Christmas carol about Facebook censorship. On the 12th day of censorship, Facebook gave to me 12 posts not posted, 11 facts suppressed, 10 videos not viewed, 9 pointless patches, 8 software crashes, 7 accounts deleted, 6 memes of Mark, 5 posts taken down, 4 piles of crap, 3 COVID idiots, 2 turtlenecks, and a picture of kitties seen 50 times. All right, anyway, there is the ionogram. There's the anomalygram, latest image. That's 1315. Oh, let's continue on to bonus features. And bonus features starting out with Udaipur, India, which has been taken over by a football team, perhaps. You can see this is clearly a pigskin, has been thrown in front of the telescope, and now it can no longer see the sun because of the importance of football. So we'll go to the El Teide ground-based solar observatory instead. Check it out. It's part of the National Sunspot Observatory. El Teide, Spain's most recent data. You can see the time and date stamps up here. Next, the NASA GOES SUVI. Spectacular imagery on this one, showing up last night when that coronal mass ejection propagated. It was quite spectacular. You can find an image of it at smAshteAm.com/smAshteAm. What about your latest intensity and colorized magnetogram? Here's the intensitygram. As those sunspots set, they are still capable of producing flares quite a bit after they've set. Those sunspots have degraded. That one has grown, certainly. A new one rose there. 2919, 2920, something like that. That one's still capable of producing significant flares. Check it out. It looks like somebody's trying to write a word. C.L.U. Coronal love you? I don't know. Continuing on. Colorized magnetogram. Check it out. Quite a lot of magnetic field organization happening. Yowzers. 2916. Still the most interesting sunspot of the entire solar cycle, I would have to say. Don't be surprised to see an X-class flare and all kinds of additional activity. Coronal mass ejection warning and solar flare warning remain in effect. We'll close out with some composite imagery here. This is 335 and 171. And here's the full disc view. Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good morning. Opinions expressed in this video, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted. Name it news.